Ladies and gentlemen, imagine for a moment that you're standing at the helm of a great ship navigating through the vast oceans. The wind is howling, the waves are crashing, but with steady hands on the wheel, you steer your course no matter how fierce the storm. Now, what if I told you that this ship is your life and the wheel is your mind? The truth is, in life we often face storms, uncertainty, stress, even our own fears. But what determines whether we reach our destination or drift off course is how we control our mind. As humans, we can't always control the circumstances around us, but we can control our reactions to them. We can master our thoughts, and in doing so, we master our actions and ultimately our lives. Controlling your mind isn't about suppressing your thoughts or emotions, it's about understanding them, channeling them, and using them to fuel your success. It's about recognizing that the greatest battle we ever fight is within ourselves, and victory comes not from resisting that battle but from mastering it. Over the next few minutes, we'll explore how to harness the incredible power of your mind to not only improve your life but to transform it. You'll learn techniques that will allow you to shift from a place of reaction to one of action, from chaos to clarity, and from fear to courage. So are you ready to take control of the wheel? Let's set sail and discover how to control your mind and unlock your fullest potential. Ladies and gentlemen, picture yourself on the deck of a great ship. The sky is clear, the sea is calm. But then, without warning, the winds begin to howl, the waves start crashing, and you find yourself in the midst of a storm. It's in that moment, standing at the helm, that your greatest tool is the ship's wheel, the very thing that allows you to steer through the chaos and remain in control. Now, let me tell you something important. Your mind is that wheel. The ship represents your life, and just like a captain cannot control the weather, we cannot control every circumstance that life throws at us. We cannot stop the winds of change, the unexpected challenges, or turbulent situations. But what we can control is how we steer. And the way we steer through life's storms is by mastering our minds. Too often we forget that. Too often we let the external world, the people around us, the events, the stress toss us around like a ship with no direction. When that happens, we lose control of our emotions. We let fear, anger, and doubt take over. But the secret to success, the secret to calm amidst the storm, is holding steady to the wheel of our own minds. Imagine a captain who panics at the first sight of a storm. That would happen to the ship. It would drift, or worse, crash on the rocks. But the great captains, those who sail through even the fiercest of storms, never let go of the wheel. They trust their instincts. They focus on what they can control. Not the wind, not the waves, but their own ability to steer through them. In life, we face personal storms all the time. We face deadlines, relationships under strain, financial difficulties, self-doubt. The storm hits and we can feel like we're being blown in every direction. But if we learn to control our minds, we take back control of our lives. Because it's not the storm that determines where the ship goes, it's the captain. It's you. Now let's be clear, controlling your mind doesn't mean you ignore the reality around you. It doesn't mean pretending that the waves aren't high or that the storm isn't real. But what it does mean is keeping your focus. It means not being swept away by emotions or circumstances. When you control your mind, you keep your vision clear. You maintain the calm within so you can navigate through whatever life throws at you. Think of the most successful people in any field. What do you think, they never faced challenges? Do you think their journeys were free of obstacles? No, what sets them apart is their ability to stay composed, to keep their hands steady on the wheel. Even when the winds of doubt and fear were howling around them, they knew that as long as they controlled their minds, they could control their path. I'll tell you a personal story, if I may. Early in my career, I was faced with a challenge that seemed insurmountable. I had just started my journey in public speaking, and I was terrified of failure, terrified of rejection. I remember standing backstage, hearing the murmurs of the crowd, and feeling like I was caught in a storm. My mind was racing. What if I fail? What if they don't like me? What if I'm not good enough? I was about to walk away to abandon ship. But then a thought hit me. I can't control what the audience thinks. I can't control how they react, but I can control how I feel, how I speak, how I show up. And in that moment, I took control of my mind. I stepped onto that stage, my hand steady on the wheel, and delivered the best speech I could. The storm didn't disappear, but I made it through. That's the power of controlling your mind. Ladies and gentlemen, you might not calm the storm, but you can steer your ship through it. So I ask you, as we continue our journey together, think of the storms you faced or are currently facing. Are you letting the winds blow you off course, or are you holding firm? Controlling your thoughts, your reactions, your mindset. Remember, the storm is temporary, but your ability to steer is permanent. The ship may rock, the seas may swell, but if you can control your mind, you can steer toward any destination you choose. Keep your hand on the wheel, and no matter what comes your way, you'll make it through. So ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. Have you ever found yourself standing at a crossroads, unsure of which path to take? You know the stakes are high. You know the decision you make will affect your future. But in that moment, what truly guides you, what shapes the action you take? I'll tell you, it's your thoughts. You see, everything begins in the mind. The actions we take, the choices we make, are a direct result of the thoughts we think. What if we want to change the direction of our lives? We must first change the direction of our thoughts. Because before we take a single step forward, our minds have already made that choice for you. Let me share a little story with you. Years ago, a young man approached me after one of my talks. He was discouraged. He felt stuck in his job, unable to move forward. He told me he had all the talent, all the skills he needed, but no matter how hard he worked, nothing seemed to change. He said, "Mr. Carnegie, I've tried everything. Why am I still where I am?" I looked at him and asked, "What do you believe about yourself? What thoughts are running through your mind when you wake up in the morning? When you face a challenge, what's the first thing you tell yourself?" He paused and then he said, "Honestly, I tell myself I'm not good enough. I think about everything that could go wrong and I start doubting myself. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the crux of it. His actions were being shaped by thoughts of self-doubt, fear, and failure. And let me tell you something I've learned. If you think you're going to fail, you'll start acting in ways that make failure inevitable. Our thoughts become self-fulfilling prophecies, and when we allow negative thoughts to take control, they steer us off course long before we even realize it. But here's the good news. Just as your thoughts can lead to failure, they can just as easily lead to success. The moment you start feeding your mind with empowering, confident, and determined thoughts, your actions will follow suit. Change your thoughts, and you change your actions. Change your actions, and you change your life. I've seen this truth play out time and time again. So consider any great achievement in history, whether it's in science, business, or the arts, and you'll find that before the action, there was a powerful belief, a thought that gave birth to that action. When Thomas Edison worked day and night to invent the light bulb, he didn't focus on the thousands of failed attempts. His mind was consumed by the belief that success was within reach, that every action he took was bringing him closer to the breakthrough. Edison once said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Now, how do you think he could maintain that mindset? It wasn't luck. It wasn't blind optimism. It was a deliberate choice to control his thoughts, to focus on the positive, to believe in the possibility of success even when failure seemed more likely. And because of that mindset, his actions followed and the world was forever changed by the electric light. Your thoughts are the blueprint. They are the foundation on which everything else is built. If you fill your mind with fear, doubt, and hesitation, your actions will reflect that. You'll hesitate to take risks. You'll avoid stepping outside of your comfort zone. You'll take smaller, safer actions, and in doing so, limit your potential. But if your mind is filled with confidence, with courage, with belief in your own abilities, your actions will be bolder. You'll take that leap. You'll make that call. You'll go after the opportunities that once seemed out of reach. Now, some of you may be thinking, that sounds great in theory, but how do I do it? How do I change my thoughts? Well, it starts with awareness. Most of us let our minds run on autopilot, unaware of the negative thoughts swirling around. We're so used to thinking in patterns of doubt or fear that we don't even realize they're there. But the first step is to become aware of what's happening up here, points to head. Start noticing the thoughts that pop up when you're faced with a challenge. Are they helping you or are they holding you back? Once you become aware of those limiting thoughts, you can begin to replace them with thoughts that serve you. And no, this isn't just about thinking happy thoughts or pretending everything is perfect. It's about consciously choosing to focus on solutions instead of problems, to focus on what you can control instead of what you can't. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're about to give a presentation at work. My old pattern of thinking might be, what if I mess up? What if they don't like what I have to say? Those thoughts create anxiety, and that anxiety will likely affect your performance. But what if you consciously replace those thoughts with, I've prepared for this. I have valuable ideas to share. I'm capable of doing this. How do you think your actions would change? You'd walk into that room with more confidence, speak more clearly, and present yourself in a way that commands respect. When you master your thoughts, you begin to act with intention, with purpose, and with clarity. And here's the key, your actions determine your results. If you take bold, decisive actions, you get bold, decisive results. If you take timid, hesitant actions, your results will reflect that. Everything is connected, and it all begins in the mind. So I ask you today, what thoughts are shaping your actions? Are they leading you toward the life you want, or are they holding you back? If you're not where you want to be, maybe it's time to take control of the thoughts guiding your steps. Master your thoughts, and your actions will follow. Master your actions, and you'll create the life you've always dreamed of. Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin by sharing a simple but profound truth. The mind is like a garden. In this garden, all kinds of seeds are constantly being planted, seeds of joy, ambition, hope, but also seeds of fear, doubt, and anger. Now, we can't stop all these seeds from being planted, but we do have control over what grows. And that, my friends, is where the power of understanding comes in. Too many of us spend our lives trying to suppress the negative thoughts and emotions that arise. We push down our fears, we bury our doubts, and we hope that if we ignore them long enough, they'll go away. But let me tell you something, suppression is not the same as control. In fact, when you suppress your thoughts and emotions, you give them more power. They don't go away, they fester, they build, and sooner or later they explode, usually at the worst possible time. Now, I'm not saying you should dwell on every negative thought or emotion that crosses your mind, but there's a better way to handle them, and that's through understanding. Understanding means acknowledging the thoughts and feelings that arise, learning from them, and then choosing how to respond. Think about it like this: if you're sailing a ship and you hit a rough patch of water, what do? Do you pretend the waves aren't there? Do you close your eyes and hope they go away? Of course not. You acknowledge the waves, you assess the situation, and then you adjust your course. It's the same with your mind. When you face fear, anger, or doubt, don't suppress it, understand it. Ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? What can this emotion teach me? How can I use this to my advantage? Let me share a story from my own life. Early in my career, I had a terrible fear of public speaking. Yes, me, someone who ended up making a career out of it. Every time I stood up in front of an audience, my heart would race, my palms would sweat, and my mind would be filled with thoughts of failure. For a long time, I tried to suppress that fear. I told myself, just ignore it, push it down, and it will go away. But do you know what happened? The more I tried to ignore it, the stronger it became. The fear didn't disappear, it grew, until it was almost unbearable. It wasn't until I stopped trying to suppress that fear and started understanding it that everything changed. I began to ask myself, why am I afraid? And I realized something: my fear wasn't a sign that I was weak. It was a sign that I cared. I cared about the message I was delivering. I cared about the audience in front of me, and I cared about making an impact. Once I understood that, I stopped seeing my fear as an enemy and started seeing it as an ally. Instead of fighting it, I learned from it. And over time, that understanding gave me the confidence to speak in front of any audience, no matter how large or intimidating. You see, the key to controlling your mind isn't about pushing away the thoughts and emotions you don't like. It's about understanding them, learning from them, and using them to your advantage. Suppression leads to tension, but understanding leads to freedom. Let's talk about anger for a moment. It's one of those emotions we all experience, yet most of us try to suppress. We get angry at our spouse, our boss, our circumstances, and instead of addressing it, we bottle it up. But what happens when you keep bottling up anger? Eventually, the bottle bursts. You say or do something you regret, and the damage is done. Now, what if instead of suppressing that anger, you tried to understand it? What if the next time you felt that heat rising inside you, you paused and asked yourself, why am I angry? What is this emotion trying to tell me? Maybe it's telling you that your boundaries have been crossed. Maybe it's telling you that something in your life needs to change. When you understand your anger, you can channel it into productive action. You can have a calm conversation with your spouse or your boss. You can set clearer boundaries. You can make the changes you need to live a more fulfilling life. Anger understood becomes a powerful tool for growth. The same goes for fear. Fear is natural. It's a survival instinct. But fear only becomes destructive when we suppress it or let it control us. Instead of running from your fear, lean into it. Understand it. Ask yourself, what is this fear trying to protect me from? And is that protection necessary right now? Often, fear arises because we're stepping outside of our comfort zone, and that's a good thing. It means you're growing, you're challenging yourself. When you understand your fear, you can thank it for trying to keep you safe, but then move forward anyway. Even doubt, that nagging voice in your head that tells you you're not good enough, has something to teach you. Instead of suppressing it, ask, why am I doubting myself? Is this doubt based on fact, or is it based on fear? Often, when you shine the light of understanding on your doubts, you'll see that they're baseless, and then you can move forward with confidence. Now, you might be thinking, this sounds great in theory, but how do I start? Well, here's a simple practice you can try when a negative thought or emotion arises. Instead of pushing it away, take a deep breath and name it. Say to yourself, I'm feeling angry, or I'm feeling afraid, or I'm feeling doubtful. Just naming it creates a space between you and the emotion. It allows you to observe it instead of being consumed by it. Once you've named it, ask yourself, what is this emotion trying to tell me? What can I learn from this? By doing this, you move from a place of suppression to a place of understanding. And once you understand, you gain control not by force, but by insight. So, ladies and gentlemen, remember this: your thoughts and emotions are not your enemies. They are messengers, each one carrying valuable information about what's happening inside you. Don't suppress them. Understand them. And when you do, you'll find that the very thoughts and emotions you once feared are the ones that lead you to greater wisdom, greater strength, and greater success. How many times have you looked at someone who has achieved great success and thought to yourself, they must have something special that I don't? Maybe it was their circumstances, their connections, or perhaps just plain luck. But I'm here today to tell you a truth that I've learned over many years of working with people from all walks of life. The greatest victory you will ever achieve does not come from the outside, it comes from within. You see, true victory, whether in business, relationships, or life, doesn't begin with outside circumstances. It begins with your mindset, your inner strength, and your ability to master yourself. Now, let me say it again, victory comes from within. Now, I know that might sound like a nice idea, but you might be asking yourself, how does that help me when I'm facing real challenges? When I've got bills to pay, deadlines to meet, or obstacles in my way? Well, let me share something that will shift your perspective. The obstacles outside of you are not what hold you back, it's the obstacles within you. It's not your circumstances that defeat you, but how you respond to them. Let me illustrate this with a story. Many years ago, I knew a young man who had all the odds stacked against him. He grew up in poverty, had no formal education, and seemed destined for a life of struggle. But this young man had something powerful inside him, something that no external hardship could take away. He had belief. He believed that no matter what life threw at him, he could rise above it. He didn't wait for his circumstances to change, he changed from the inside. He mastered his mind, cultivated his inner strength, and refused to let any external force dictate his destiny. That young man went on to become one of the most successful entrepreneurs of his time. And when people asked him what the secret to his success was, do you know what he said? But he didn't say it was luck. He didn't say it was because someone gave him a break. What he said, I won the battle within myself first. I learned to master my own doubts, my own fears, and my own insecurities. Once I did that, there was no obstacle too great, no setback too strong to keep me down. That, my friends, is where true victory comes from, not from outside forces, but from the inner battle we all face. Think about the people you admire most. Whether it's a great leader, an athlete, an artist, or an entrepreneur, what sets them apart isn't that they never faced challenges, it's that they won the battle within first. They faced their fears, their doubts, their frustrations, and they conquered those inner struggles before they could achieve outer success. Let's talk about fear, because fear is one of the biggest obstacles that stands between us and victory. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of the unknown. We all experience it, but the question is, what do you do with that fear? So do you let it control you? Do you let it stop you from taking action? Or do you confront it head on and push through it? Let me tell you something I've learned. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the mastery of fear. So it's the ability to feel that fear, to acknowledge it, and then to move forward anyway. The real battle isn't out there in the world, it's in here, in your mind, in your heart. So when you conquer that inner battle, you can achieve anything. Consider the great leaders of history. People like Abraham Lincoln, Mahatma Gandhi, and Winston Churchill. These were men who faced incredible external challenges, war, oppression, poverty. But do you know why they are remembered as great? It's not just because of what they accomplished externally, but because of the battles they fought within. So Lincoln faced crippling self-doubt. Gandhi fought through fear and opposition. Churchill had to overcome depression and inner turmoil. Their victories on the world stage came only after they had achieved victory within themselves. Let me share a more personal story with you. Early in my career, when I was just starting out as a public speaker, I was terrified of failure. Every time I stood in front of an audience, that voice inside my head would start whispering, what if they don't like what I have to say? What if I forget my words? What if I'm just not good enough? That voice of doubt and insecurity was loud. And for a while it held me back. I thought my battle was with the audience, with whether or not they would accept me. But then one day I had a realization. My battle wasn't with the audience at all. My battle was with myself. The real challenge wasn't external, it was internal. It was about mastering my own self-doubt, silencing that inner critic, and finding the confidence within me. And do you know what happened when I won that inner battle? I found my voice, I found my strength. And from that point on, no audience, no external pressure could shake me. You see, victory comes from within. Now, let's talk about setbacks. Every one of us faces them. We experience failures, rejections, and disappointments. But here's the thing, setbacks don't defeat you. It's how you respond to them that makes the difference. Do you let failure define you, or do you use it as fuel to come back stronger? And there's a quote I love from Henry Ford, the man who revolutionized the automobile industry. He said, failure is simply the opportunity to begin again, this time more intelligently. Ford understood that failure wasn't an external enemy, it was an internal one. It was how you interpreted and responded to failure that determined whether it became a stumbling block or a stepping stone. Ladies and gentlemen, the truth is that the external world will always have challenges. You will face tough times. You will encounter obstacles, but if you've won the battle within, no external force can break you. When you master your inner world, when you control your thoughts, your fears, your doubts, you become unstoppable. Victory doesn't come from circumstances falling perfectly into place. It doesn't come from avoiding obstacles or eliminating challenges. Victory comes from your ability to master yourself. Once you've won that internal battle, the world outside doesn't seem so daunting. You realize that the power to overcome, to achieve, and to succeed has been inside you all along. So, I ask you, what battle are you fighting within yourself? Is it fear? Is it self-doubt? Is it the voice that tells you you're not good enough? Whatever it is, face it. You don't ignore it. Don't suppress it. Fight it. And when you've won that battle within, you'll find that the external battles become easier to face. Victory starts in your mind, and from there, it changes everything. Remember, victory comes from within. Once you've claimed the victory, the rest of the world is yours to conquer. We've spoken today about mastering your mind, understanding your emotions, and finding victory from within. Now let's talk about something that is absolutely essential to making all of this possible: building a habit of positive thinking. You see, our minds are like fertile soil, and what we plant in them determines what grows. If you plant seeds of doubt, negativity, and fear, that's exactly what will sprout in your life. But if you make it a habit to plant seeds of positivity, optimism, and confidence, those will flourish. The key word here is habit. Positive thinking isn't something you do once in a while, it's something you cultivate daily, moment by moment, until it becomes second nature. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking: Dale, that sounds great, but life isn't always positive. What about when things go wrong? What about when problems arise? And you're right, life isn't always smooth sailing. But that's precisely why building a habit of positive thinking is so powerful. It doesn't mean ignoring challenges or pretending problems don't exist. It means training your mind to see opportunities where others see obstacles, to stay hopeful when others give up, and to believe in possibilities even when the path ahead seems uncertain. Let me share with you a story. Many years ago, there was a man who lost everything in the stock market crash of 1929. He had been a successful businessman, but overnight his wealth was gone. His friends, his colleagues, they all saw him as a failure. But do you know what he did? He didn't sit around dwelling on what he had lost. He didn't let the negativity consume him. Instead, he made a conscious decision. He was going to focus on what he still had. He still had his health, his mind, his determination. He decided that no matter how bad things looked on the outside, he would keep his mind focused on what was possible. That man went on to rebuild his fortune, but more importantly, he built a life of meaning and fulfillment. And when people asked him how he did it, he would say, "I simply refused to let my thoughts dwell in the negative. I made it a habit to look for the silver lining in every cloud." That, my friends, is the power of positive thinking. But here's the secret. It's not enough to think positively every now and then. You have to make it a habit. A habit is something you do consistently until it becomes automatic. And the good news is, just like any other habit, positive thinking can be trained and developed, but you have to work at it. Now, let's be clear, I'm not talking about blind optimism. Positive thinking isn't about pretending everything is perfect when it's not. It's about training your mind to focus on what you can do, on the opportunities that exist even in the midst of difficulty. It's about reframing problems as challenges and challenges as opportunities to grow. Now let's talk about how to build this habit. How do you train your mind to think positively even when life throws challenges your way? It starts with awareness. Most of us aren't even aware of the thoughts running through our minds. Negative thoughts sneak in without us realizing it. We let doubt, fear, and worry take root before we even notice what's happening. But the first step to building a habit of positive thinking is to become aware of those thoughts. Catch them as they arise. Let me give you a practical tool. When a negative thought enters your mind, don't just accept it. Challenge it. Ask yourself, is this thought helping me or hurting me? Is it based on fact or fear? Then consciously replace that thought with something positive. For example, if you catch yourself thinking, "I'm not good enough," challenge that thought. Say to yourself, "I'm learning, I'm growing. Every day I'm getting better." At first, this might feel unnatural, but over time, as you practice, it becomes easier. Another powerful way to build the habit of positive thinking is to practice gratitude. Every day, take a few moments to reflect on what you're grateful for. No matter how tough things might be, there's always something to be thankful for. Maybe it's your health, your family, a roof over your head. When you focus on gratitude, you shift your mind away from what's lacking and toward what's abundant. Ladies and gentlemen, as we come to the close of this conversation on controlling your mind, let me ask you a question. What's the single greatest thing standing between you and the life you truly want to live? Is it some external force? Is it the challenges and obstacles life has thrown your way? Or is it perhaps something more subtle, something within you, your mindset, your thoughts, your beliefs? We've spent today diving deep into the power of the mind, how your thoughts shape your actions, how your emotions can guide or derail you, and how true victory comes from within. We've talked about the importance of mastering our inner world before we can conquer the outer one and the necessity of building a habit of positive thinking. These aren't just ideas to ponder, they are tools that you can use right now to transform your life. You see, the battle of life isn't fought on some distant battlefield, it's fought right here in the mind. And the beautiful thing is that you have control over this battlefield. You may not be able to control everything that happens to you, but you can always control how you respond to it. That's where your power lies. That's where the magic happens. Let me remind you of the power of perspective, because how you view a situation determines how you act in it. Every challenge, every setback, every difficulty in your life carries within it the seeds of opportunity. If you train your mind to see those opportunities, no matter how tough things may seem, you will always find a way forward. But this doesn't come naturally. It's something you must practice, something you must commit to daily. Let me give you a story that highlights this point. Many years ago, I came across the story of a woman who had suffered a devastating personal loss. She had lost her business, her home, and her family's financial stability all at once. Many people in her shoes would have given in to despair, but not her. She decided that no matter how difficult the situation, she would not let it break her spirit. Every day, she made it a point to focus on what she could control. She would wake up and say to herself, "Today I will find one thing to be grateful for." And even on the darkest days, she would find something. Maybe it was a kind word from a neighbor. Maybe it was a beautiful sunrise. Slowly, but surely, that gratitude shifted her mindset. Instead of focusing on what she had lost, she began to see what she could build. She rebuilt her business, strengthened her relationships, and found new opportunities she never would have seen if she had stayed trapped in negativity. She didn't let the external circumstances control her. She controlled her mind, and that changed everything. That, my friends, is the power of controlling your thoughts. Your mind is a tool, and like any tool, it can work for you or against you, depending on how you use it. But if you let it wander, if you let it be controlled by fear, doubt, and negativity, it will sabotage your best efforts. But if you take control of it, if you discipline it, if you train it to focus on what's positive and productive, there's no limit to what you can achieve. So, what does it mean to control your mind? First, it means awareness. You must be aware of the thoughts that run through your head every day. Too often, we allow negative, self-defeating thoughts to dominate our thinking without even realizing it. But when you become aware of them, when you start catching yourself in the act, you gain the power to change them. So you can't control what you're not aware of. So start paying attention to the stories you tell yourself, the beliefs you hold, and the habits of thought you've developed over the years. Second, controlling your mind means challenging your thoughts. Don't accept every thought that pops into your head as truth. Question it. Is it helping you or hurting you? Is it based on fact or fear? Is it moving you closer to your goals or pulling you further away? When you challenge your negative thoughts, you weaken their power over you. You reclaim control. Third, controlling your mind, empowering beliefs. We've talked today about the importance of positive thinking, but let's be clear, positive thinking isn't just wishful thinking. It's about creating a mindset that looks for solutions, that finds opportunities, and that stays resilient in the face of adversity. Well, this doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means choosing to see reality through a lens of possibility instead of limitation. Now, this is where the real work begins, building a habit of positive thinking. You must train your mind to default to optimism, to focus on what's possible, and to stay hopeful even when things are difficult. This is a habit, and like any habit, it takes time to develop. But with practice, it becomes second nature. And once you've trained your mind to think positively, you'll find that even the biggest challenges in life become manageable, because your mind is working for you, not against you. Finally, controlling your mind means mastering your emotions. So emotions are powerful forces that can drive us to great heights or drag us down into the depths of despair. But here's the secret. You don't have to be a slave to your emotions. You can feel them without letting them control you. You can acknowledge your fear, your anger, your frustration, and then choose how to respond to them. This is emotional intelligence, and it's one of the most powerful skills you can develop in your life. Imagine for a moment what your life would look like if you mastered your mind. If instead of reacting to life, you chose how to respond. If instead of being pulled down by negative thoughts, you lifted yourself up with positive, empowering ones. If instead of being overwhelmed by fear and doubt, you faced each challenge with confidence and resilience, what would be possible for you? So I'll tell you anything, because once you've mastered your mind, once you've built the habit of positive thinking, once you've learned to control your emotions and see the possibilities in every situation, so there's nothing you can't achieve. Life will still throw challenges your way, no doubt about that. But with a strong mind, with a disciplined and empowered mindset, you'll find that those challenges are no longer obstacles. They become opportunities to grow, to learn, to improve. And that's when life becomes truly exciting, when you realize that you are in control, that you hold the power to shape your own destiny. So as we wrap up today, I want to leave you with one final thought. The most important work you will ever do is the work you do on your mind. Mastering your mind is the key to mastering your life. And the good news is you can start today. So you can begin right now by becoming more aware of your thoughts, by challenging the ones that don't serve you, and by committing to a mindset of possibility and optimism. Remember, you have the power. It's not your circumstances that define you, it's your mind. Control your mind, and you will control your life. Thank you.